up, we have Phil Smith. If you can help me welcome Phil.
They asked me to stand up here because I'm a little more vertically challenged. So, I just don't want to be in the way so people can see. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Smith Farm here along the beautiful Minnesota River Valley here. Too blessed to be able to live in a place like this. A big thank you, and I'm using cheat sheet because I don't do this at all. So, a big thank you to the NRCS and the Soil and Water Conservation District and Hawkridge Watershed for all the effort and putting this together. Special thank you to Holly and her crew, Ethan and Kyle, and of course Heidi and Dean and Jordan. They put a tremendous amount of effort into this. So let's just give them a quick. We've been asked to share our soil health journey, and you notice they said our, and you don't see my wife Robin said, so I am going to introduce her. She doesn't like to get in front of people. If you raise your hand a little bit, dear, that's my wife Robin. And the better half of this story. This is going to get somewhat personal, because that's the only way I know how to present this. Okay, so bear with me. First off, we're not experts. We're just beginners at this, and we hope to share how we started, what we've learned, maybe squash a few myths, and hopefully expose a few truths. Where's regenerative ag leading us or you? It might surprise you when we get done here. I think you're gonna be surprised at where this may lead all of us. It's not a cookie cutter process. Each farm is unique. And you can see with Brian's former presentation here earlier today, and you'll see our operation is considerably different. We have an 800-acre operation, and now 100% no-till, farming corn and soybeans, and now we've added some rye into the rotation. The other thing that's unique is everyone's goals are different. I think you're going to find that as you visit with people here. Everyone's goals are different, but the one thing that's constant, and Gabe and I were just talking about this, is the soil principles still remain constant. In most publications, they talk about 5 principles, soil principles, in most publications. And those of you that don't know what they are, just Mike, okay. No tillage or minimum tillage or very little disturbance. Covers, armor on the soil. Multi-species, a live root, just as long or as many days as you can possibly in this northern climate. And you can add animals or livestock. I sometimes think we've got our livestock here because we've got hundreds of deer here that really can do a lot of damage. They're pretty steep, but they can do a lot of damage as well. But Gabe and his crew with Soil Health Academy have added a 6th one, and that's context. Context of your farm, context of your goals. To me, that's the first and the most important of the soil principles. Understanding what you're trying to do. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you looking for? Why are you here? I've heard lots of reasons. I just want to be a good steward of my land. Erosion control, wind and water. We're having issues here in Renville County. I want to learn a little bit about soil health. Maybe I can reduce costs, like what Brian had talked about. One that not many people talk about is increasing profitability. Sometimes, and for our family as well, it's a way of life. It's become a way of life. Everyone in the green t-shirt here you see today, most of them are producers. They have their own story, own unique story. And I think if you ask them, they'll share that with you. They're proud to share that with you. So I'll begin by sharing ours here now. So how and why did we start this path on regenerative agriculture? It's kind of a long story, and my wife is thinking, oh no, here he goes, because I like to be detailed. Ever since I was a little boy, all I wanted to do was farm. Just like most little boys, had tractors and combines. My dad made me a little bin for the popcorn that I used to create the fields in the 4 bedrooms upstairs and in the hallway. Got the planting done. Harvest didn't always get done by me. Thank you, Mom. You usually harvested some of the last that didn't get picked up. Started farming in 1980, just a year out of high school. And I share this story at length because I believe each and every step brought us to this day here today. You and I know that are old enough to remember what the 80s were like. They were tough, really tough. It wasn't about increasing profitability, it was just trying to be profitable. We got to the 80s, moved to the 90s, and we were trying some different things. And right out here in the 60-acre field and another field down on the river bottom, a neighbor friend of mine and I went down to Mississippi and looked at something called rotational grazing. We fenced off 60 acres here, another 60 acres on the river bottom with a perimeter fence, and we set up a center fence. Remnants of that is still in that post over there with a hydrant and 110 outlet for the electric fence. We ran poly water all the way across. To make a long story short, we rotated or rotationally grazed, moved every day. Our girls got involved as well. Every day on that 60 acres, 200 head of stockers. I'll get back to that in a minute because there's a meaning to that experience. As we move forward, we were a little tight on income, started working out the farm. We started with a Pioneer agency, and it really was a blessing because we got a chance to see many, many different operations and how they did things. And one thing that I noticed is most all of them are very successful doing some various different things, just like we're talking about now. Every operation is different. We started no-tilling soybeans in 1992, 30 years ago, Dad and I. And for the life of me today, I still don't understand why we till anything to plant soybeans or even chop the stalks as far as that goes. It was kind of the beginning of what we were looking at going forward. Without realizing it, we started moving towards this position about 10, 12 years ago. We quit using anhydrous 12 years ago because of what it does to the microorganisms in the because of what it does to the microorganisms in the life in the soil. Quit deep tilling about that same time. About 10 years ago, we had the opportunity to use some access to trichia litter. And we haven't used any synthetic, anything besides nitrogen in synthetic fertilizers since then. One, we did, just to acknowledge with Holly, we did enter a contract with the CSP program about that same time, a 5-year contract. And just so you understand, we continue to do this because what we learned without any government help. In fact, they preferred not to do that. However, the real clicker, where's Grant and Dawn? Guys, we owe you a debt of gratitude for what you've done and what you've meant to this family. A little background story. We belonged to a little country church not far from here for 23 years. We watched them, we listened to them, because there was only about 15 people that attended every church, so we had plenty of time to visit. They were patient, they shared their story, and kind of watched from the outside, and I understand why there aren't more people here, because you look at that like, yeah, they're just a little different. They just do things a little different. Oh, they got livestock, they need feed or graze or hay or whatever. And that's really, I've heard that myself. But they're patient, and they finally talked us into attending the Soil Health Academy. And that was actually 5 years ago, and I couldn't attend the first one that they hosted because they had a Pioneer sales meeting 2 days of the 3. So we waited till the next year and got there. We've attended 2 more since then that they've hosted. Believe me, you learn something new every time. After the first 2 hours, I said to myself, oh my, man, did we screw up. We should have been here 10 years ago. We watched Ray Archuleta, and our nickname for him was Reverend Ray. The passion that he shared with the soil, and he shared that this is not an inert material. It's alive. It's completely alive. Listen to Gabe tell his story, how he got started in regenerative ag, and I could identify, particularly with the 90s and being some really, really tough years, looking for ways to survive on the farm. Then we got to Shane. Let me back up a little bit. I wanted to come back to the rotational grazing. Something that Gabe shared when he lived his livestock in rotation, how it changed the soil. And all of a sudden, it hit me. Oh my. Now I understand. We grazed this for 7 years, rotational grazed. And because we started with another, with the seed, there was just too many things to do, and we had to give something up. Unfortunately, we tilled it. But those first 3 years of corn and soybeans, actually probably the first 4 years after we took out the pasture, those crops were absolutely amazing. We had never seen yields like that, ever, on that farm. It's very marginal, very light. When Gabe talked about what he was doing, it hit me like, I get it. I get it. It's about the soil. And Shane got up and talked about how he was tired of working off-farm income and the trucking business, this and that. He was tired of trying to support his farming operation. And I said, oh boy, can I identify. Light bulb coming on. Now I understand context. Now I want to go home and share with Robin. Now I know what our context is. Looking to improve the income on the farm. That's something that is not talked about a lot, the profitability. But improving the income on the farm. So maybe I was getting close to 60. I'm 61 now, but the hours that it takes to do both, it had enough. Looking for a way to make a change. Went home, discussed it with Robin, and we knew what we needed to do. This is how we started. Kind of know the history. The first year, and it's a comfort level. It really is. You got to get comfortable with what you're doing. First year, we planted rye into corn stalks that fall. Neighbors look like, what in the world is he doing out there planting something? We no-tilled, and what we did is that we wanted to take a little step at a time to get comfortable with it. So we did, and we had litter piled in the corn, in the bean stubble spread. So we spread the litter in the bean stubble, lightly distant as we'd done the previous 10 years. But instead of hitting with a field cultivator, I did sell that, Gabe, and we strictly no-tilled the corn into that stubble field. Second year, we planted rye into the soybean stubble to plant corn, and I was nervous, really nervous, because I know that corn does not like a lot of competition. But we gave it a try, and we started interseeding the corn with a 5-way mix that summer. And I have to share a quick story. My dad, who does a lot of the corn planting, his words were the first spring, and pardon me, is that going to grow in that shit? So, come full circle, this past spring was a wet spring here, really wet. In fact, here we had 2-3 inch rains in about an hour or two apart. We had water everywhere. We managed to get some planted earlier, and to make a long story short, we had to move to a field we hadn't planned on, and the rye wasn't very big. And I was ready to spray it off like I normally did. He said, "Isn't that rye a little small to spray yet?" I'm like, "What?" You can learn. You can get there. Third year, we planted 20 acres of rye. Actually, we planted 40. And I chickened out because we planted all along. We have very marginal soil all along these trees. We probably had about 4 miles of trees if you really stretch them out. I was concerned because I don't do my own spraying. It's something I chose not to do. I hire a co-op, and I have a very good relationship. They understand what we're doing and really, really are great to work with. And I was worried about spraying because I'm used to spraying weeds out of wheat. And that, those are such narrow strips, they're never going to get into the sprayer. It's going to be a pain. So it took up 20 acres, but I come to find out there's no weed in that rye. Not one. There's no need to do anything like that. This year we added more rye acres. You see that here. Next year we're going to plant corn into what you're standing on for the first time. I keep being told that planting planting corn into rye with covers, I'll be amazed at what I see for a corn crop. We'll see. It'll be changing. We do experiment a little bit. You see this is kind of a checkerboard square field. There's 40 acres here. It was originally intended to be a rye. I was told you can't kill rye when you get 6-inch rain, and even in that winter it froze really hard after it thawed. We killed some rye. We knew we had to do this here today. We planted some soybeans in it, and I left the checkerboard. There's rye here, beans, then there's rye again, and then beans. We're going to plant corn all the way through because we want to see what this looks like next year. Feel comfortable, that's kind of one of our rules. 40 acres, that's 5% of our 800 acres. We can risk that. Okay? Who knows in the next years coming? Looking for additional rotation crops as well. Maybe grazing, we get a grazing partner. We're not interested at our age starting any livestock operation. Okay? We'll get into a little bit of the economics here to give you an idea. And what I'm asking you to do is don't pay attention to specifics. Okay, trying to get you a general. We'll talk about a little bit here. This happens to be a picture of the interseeded corn out here this spring. Unfortunately, the grasshoppers ate everything off, so we don't have anything to show here. But we did actually have cover crop started in there. Now, what I did is I split out, did the same thing as Ryan did. Well, I didn't take it at 75%. I just used Iowa custom rates and on both sides. The regenerative is our operations. This is exactly what we did this year, but I used the coming fall rates, so we're as current as possible. So this is exactly what we did. This here is just an average. Talked to the grounds, we talked about different prices, kind of got the middle of the road. What does everybody do? One of the biggest ones I really want to point out is fertilizer. See, that's a typical mix. 175, 80, 60, 15 pounds of sulfur, 2 pounds of zinc. Our whole 350 acres averages about 85 pounds a N. That's it. That's a lot of savings. A lot of savings. This corn crop is the second corn crop with nothing but a little bit of synthetic N. That's it. I've done yield checks for what they're worth and all the corn, and I think we're going to be in that 185 to 195 area. The savings difference between those two. And again, don't get stuck on it. We can go up and down of different things, even like the price of the rye here at 80 pounds. You raise your own rye, you can cut that in half. I mean, there's varying degrees of things you can do here. It's $185 an acre. Beans, somewhat similar. Again, I don't want you to get stuck on specifics. We can debate going up or down in either category. One thing I want to point out, added $4 because that's what they have a custom race for chopping corn head. Just those little things to think about. $114 an acre difference. We raise seed for Pioneer. We're 100% seed production, except for these two little pieces here, and we maintain every year. We're in the upper third of the yield for the producers out of Jackson. I hear a lot, oh, you're not going to get the yields. I'll debate that all day. This is our family. This is got to show off a little bit. This last summer was our 40th wedding anniversary, and we have since added yet another grandson. So I couldn't leave him out, so we had to stick him up on there as well. Let me see. Yeah, regenerative. I gotta get to the right spot here. Regenerative agriculture. Where can this possibly lead us? Where I can see. Increased microbial activity. Communication with plants and animals. Cody Nelson told me about a YouTube video he had watched, Dr. Christine Jones. You're familiar with that. If you want to understand the communication of the microbiome and the plants, she's got some excellent stuff. And you just truly start to understand what's going on. It gives us the increased soil health. It's visible in many ways. That leads to increased plant, insect, and animal health. Pay attention. That goes to increased nutrient density of our food supply. I really want to hit that well. I hope that you've taken a look at Holly's display out here, the tomato plants. This is where it's going to, folks. People and consumers are trying to understand this. Soil health leads to healthy food and healthy human beings. Plus, for us as producers, increased profitability. It doesn't get much better than that. With that, I've got several final pieces of advice coming from this beginner. Open your mind with critical thinking. If you know what critical thinking means, just look it up in the dictionary. You'll understand what I'm talking about. And thicken your skin. Yeah, you're going to get some smirks. You're going to get some eyeballs raised. And I even experienced this past summer somebody chewing me out in a public setting because I was taking money from the taxpayer because I was doing all these cover crops and the government was paying me to do it. Tried to explain that's not the case. All I'm saying is you're gonna run into that. That's okay. You know what's right. You know what you're doing. Number 2, change your mindset and your focus from yield and weight gains to profit per acre to profit per pound. It's pretty simple. 3, I can't stress this enough. Keep it simple. I've seen too many times when people try to do too many things at one time and they don't have anything to measure against. Keep it simple. Take it easy and learn. And this is something I got from Shane as well. Do it with intention. If you're going to do it, do it. When things need to get done, you need to do it with purpose and intention. Number 5. Move forward as you feel comfortable or can afford to risk. Pretty much a no-brainer. Take your time until you feel comfortable. And you'll continue to learn and you won't be so stressed out when things maybe don't go quite as you had planned. Number 6, be adaptive and flexible with focused timeliness. There's a lot of adjusting, and as Gabe says, it's a thinking man's game, this regenerative agriculture. You have to think through some things, and sometimes you got to make a left turn or right turn pretty quickly, but do it with timeliness. When the covers need to get planted, you get them planted. It's not next week. It's not 2 weeks from now. No, you get it planted to get that live root on the ground just as soon as you can. 7, heard this many times. Observe, observe, observe. I've walked our fields more times in this last 5 years than I did my entire career. It's fascinating. Just fascinating. Pay attention to what's going on under the surface. Those pictures I just took Thursday. That's the same soil that Holly had in her demonstration. The aggregation is absolutely beautiful. That when I tipped that spade over, it just fell apart. It just was absolutely beautiful. Pay attention to the insects. They're not all considered the enemy. Pay attention to the plants and the animals. As Grant and Dawn can tell you, they can tell you a lot. Final slide. Regenerative agriculture. And this quote is something I made up, but I don't want to plagiarize. Dean said this to me, the second half of this said this to me the other day after a meeting. But I added it to a line that I use. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you go down the path of regenerative agriculture, you can't turn back. So my question to all of you as producers here today, can you be happier, more satisfied, and more profitable by working with instead of against Mother Nature, or as I prefer to call it, God's creation, as this creation was originally designed to be cared for? Only you guys can answer that. Thanks.